Hey, you're watching the Sideman Show, and this is your host, Bear. Today's guest is very special, and I mean special. You're not going to believe this show, so let's just get right into it. Here we go. Welcome to the Sideman Show. My special guest tonight is Keith Driver. How you doing, Keith?
Doing fine, sir. Mr. Bear, Clair, how are you?
Well, if I was any better, I'd be twins, Hoss.
I love it. That's why I love you.
Well, you know.
You come up with the greatest sayings I've ever heard, and I hate to say this, but I steal them. I steal them from you, and I use them over here in Virginia. I hope you don't mind.
Well, you know, as long as you're using them in Virginia, then we're okay.
I give you credit. I give you credit for anything that I use of yours. I promise.
Now, are you registered with BMI and ASCAP on that?
Yeah. Just BMI. Just BMI.
Because, you know, they're going to want their cut on that. But anyway. Hey, so what are you up to, Driver? What's going on with you these days?
Okay, I'll give you the condensed version. After 12 long, grueling years in Nashville in 2005, as a matter of fact, I was just talking to a friend of mine a little while ago. I decided to move home. It was the end of 2005, September, October of 2005. And when I moved home, I thought to myself, wow, 33 years old, starting over again. You know, it's the age-old story of the musician. You go back home, you regroup, and you try it again. And I just, I'm getting to the point where it's a young man's game, and it continues to get younger. And so I immediately threw myself to the wolves and decided to get back out and play some live music. And I started playing with a group out of Richmond, Virginia called Cedar Creek, and they happened to be the hot ticket in town. So, I mean, I got lucky right out of the gate. I joined Cedar Creek. You know, the first show that we did was at Cattle Annie's in Lynchburg, opening for Joe Nichols. So I mean,
oh, wow.
If that'll give you any indication as to the level of shows that we were doing, it was a good run, and I was with him for a little while. But the longer I was with him, I was realizing, I don't want to be doing this, when I'm 50 and 60 and 70 years old. So I was trying to think ahead of the curve, and I had amassed a ton of music equipment and music gear through the years. So as time went on, I slowly started to put myself out there, and I know a lot of people are going to get a laugh at my expense on this, but I created a DJ and a karaoke company because I knew I wasn't going to have to worry about anybody other than myself showing up to do a job.
Boy, that's a good thing.
As you know, and as a lot of people in the business know,
yeah,
there's a lot of prima donnas and there's a lot of divas out there that you have to deal with, and it just wasn't on my agenda to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, you probably had enough of that after Nashville, huh?
I had a plan, and honestly, working with people like Jim and Jesse from the Grand Ole Opry, I was lucky. When you work with a class act like Jim and Jesse McReynolds, you don't have to worry about dealing with somebody getting drunk and falling off the stage or not showing up to the gig, or somebody's old lady showing up and wanting to shoot you because her her husband, who happens to play guitar for you, is messing around with the town tramp. Those
all
kind of things
drama.
they simply do not exist when you arrive to that level of professionalism. And I have to say, Jesse McReynolds is a beautiful human being. I love him. He is so musically talented.
Oh, man.
But Jim McReynolds was the business mind of that duo, and largely due to him, they had a lot of success for the past 50, 60 years.
Now, when did he pass away, Driver?
Jim passed on New Year's Eve in 2002, I believe.
Wow. It seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
It really does.
Man, time seems to be, really, really moving faster the older we get.
You better believe it.
So, you and I talk about the music business all the time. We're always on here yapping at each other, and I've wanted to get you on the show for a long time because we both have our opinions of where the music business is and how it's evolving. Give me your synopsis right now. Where do you think the music business is today?
Oh, I've always said over the past 5 years, when I moved home in 2005, I saw the handwriting on the wall. I knew what was happening. That's why I had to make some changes and stay ahead of the curve. I could tell that the industry was hurting, and it was going to hurt a whole lot more before it got any better. I don't know if you remember when Napster made its appearance in 1999. That was the beginning of the end right there. The illegal downloading and internet piracy has completely circumvented a stream of revenue that has been readily available within the industry that we work for 50, 60 years. And now all of a sudden, people don't have to go out and buy physical products anymore. They can get anything they want, and they can walk right through your front door and steal it from you and walk right out unnoticed.
Yeah.
And so there you have it. That's the music industry in a nutshell. I've talked to a lot of extremely important people in the business. Had a conversation with Bobby Braddock about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he told me straight up, we're going to have to think of new, inventive, innovative ways to make a living in the business because the old ways aren't working anymore. So that forces people to put their thinking caps on and come up with the next big thing as far as music is concerned.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some real innovation soon.
Oh, it's going to be. You better believe it. And they're right around the corner. I've got my team of people in my think tank over here in Virginia, and we're working hard on trying to stay ahead of the curve. You know, radio is a aspect of the business that people really kind of forget about, but it's still so important. And I think the reason people forget about conventional radio is because there's so many more options to listen to different kinds of music now than there's ever been. But radio is not a dead business yet, but it could stand to be revitalized and revolutionized, and that's one of the things that we're working on over here in Virginia is to create an aspect of the industry that only conventional live radio can give.
Well, that's very cool. I mean, you know, hey, we're gonna have to take a break, driver. I want to play some of your music before we come back. What do you recommend we listen to today?
What would be a cool song to listen to? Yeah,
of yours. I want to play some stuff off your record because you made a great record.
You want to do? Let's see. You want to do the new record? Or you want to do something from the Jim and Jesse days, or you go back to the 1800s?
You pick it. How about that? You just tell me what we're gonna play.
I've been recording a long time. You can tell. Let's see. The new record is called Trilogy, and it's actually I say record. It's records. It's three separate albums that I have combined to create a 3 CD set.
Where can people get it?
Oh, they can get it online. I have a website. It's www.dangercounty.com, and it's pretty easy. You just go to the gosh, I haven't been to my website for so long I can't remember the name of the tab.
There you have it, folks. You heard it here.
Yeah.
On the Sideman Show. Well, give me a song out there because I gotta go to break, and I want to play them something before they come back. So you tell me what we're gonna play.
Okay, let's play "Arm's Length Away from My Heart." It's probably one of my favorite songs on the record.
"Arm's Length Away from My Heart." Here is Keith Driver with "Arm's Length Away from My Heart," and we'll be right back. So stay tuned.
Baby, here we are right back at the beginning again. You tell me that you love me, and I'm always the one giving in. That's when you put your arms around me, girl, you really know your part. So it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I'll take one step forward, you take 2 steps away from me. We have one little fight and then you're running home to Tennessee. That's when you call me on the phone, girl, you really got it down to an art. So it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. And then you'll be the one to see just how it feels to be alone in the dark. You know I'm always gonna love you, and we'll never be that far apart. But it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. We've got a history. If we do, then it's a mystery to me. You know I really wanna trust you, but it's getting kinda hard to believe that you could ever really love me, 'cause you never finish what you start. So this time I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. And then you'll be the one to see just how it feels to be alone in the dark. You know I'm always gonna love you, and we'll never be that far apart. But it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I wanna put the past behind us, but I really don't know where to start. So this time I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. Yeah, it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart.
We're back. That's a great song, Keith. So tell me, what was going through your head when you wrote that?
Arm's length. Let's see. Believe it or not, it was on my way back to Virginia from Nashville. I had been to Nashville for a recording session, which went horribly wrong. I don't think we kept much of anything out of this particular session. Musicians showing up drunk, not showing up at all. just the average everyday life of the musician. Wound up going back home to Virginia, and I was really depressed about the way the session went. And I had turned the radio station. I guess I was on 40 East, around between Knoxville and Asheville, North Carolina. And at the time, there was a big hit on the radio that was out by James Otto, and I can't remember the name of the song. What was it?
It's that staying power of these new songs. I mean, they're wonderful.
Anyway, James Otto had a really big hit. Had a neat kind of almost a calypso beach shag feel to it.
Yeah.
You don't have to go now, honey, call and tell him you won't be in today. It almost had that Shagging on the Boulevard by Alabama feel to it. And I had never written a song with a shag beat, and it just knocked me out and put a big smile on my face.
Are you saying to me that there's a shag beat? That sounds like something right out of Austin Powers.
Shag beat.
Come on, that's
So
Austin Powers.
I pulled out the cell phone, and fortunately, technology has evolved to the point where, every cell phone, any cell phone that's been made in the past 5, 6, 7 years, it should have a voice memo application on it. And so I pulled it out and started writing melody and lyrics. And before I got to Emporia, Virginia, the song was written.
Wow.
And subsequently included on the new project.
Now, did you, when you wrote this album, did you intend it to be 3 CDs?
No, not at all.
How did it grow into that?
A lot of people, I mean, I put my first album out back in 1994, which, gosh, that seems like a lifetime ago. 17 years ago, I put my first album out. It was all original music, with the exception of one cut, which was written by Jesse McReynolds. And God love Jesse. He is just a terrific writer. I love Jesse McReynolds. And so anyway, a lot of years went by. I signed a bluegrass deal and put out a bluegrass album in 96, 97. And then I put a Christmas album out in 2001. And then we tried to do a live album in 2004. It didn't work out because the guys that actually were hired to come in and track the show just they blew it. They recorded the tracks with the effects on.
Oh no!
So I didn't get any raw tracks. I got tracks that had some serious 80s and 90s reverb and delay permanently attached to the tracks.
Bummer.
So the live album never happened. But I did have a lot of people in my hometown, in my home state of Virginia, that were asking me for some new original material. And in 2008, I said, it's time. It's time for me to get back to what I love doing, which is writing. I love to play music. I love to play the guitar. I love playing bass. I like to sing. I love singing harmonies. And I love the whole live application of music. But writing is where my true passion is at.
Yeah, and you're a great writer, Keith, no doubt. Now,
Thank you, sir.
Do you when you play jug, do you have to find a left-handed jug?
I'm pretty ambidextrous, so I can actually take a right-handed jug and flip it around backwards and play it. There's not a lot of people that can do that.
I know you're left-handed, so I've been saving that joke for somebody left-handed, but unfortunately it went to you this time.
I think Denver Pyle actually was playing a left-handed jug on the Andy Griffith Show. I don't think many people know that.
Yeah, because he held it kind of backwards and over, back and to the left, back and to the left. No, that was a different move. Anyway, geez, we digress. The Darlings. I love that band.
I do too.
Now those guys, I think some of them still play around town that were in that band.
So weren't they actually in real life? They were the Dillards.
Yes, that's right. I believe they're still playing.
And let's see, I don't know, I can't remember the guy's name, but Roland White. Roland White played with those guys for a little while, and he's huge. He's huge in Nashville.
Yeah, I remember they used to play at Douglas Corner and some other places. It's amazing.
They played Station Inn, and all kinds of places.
Yeah, and those places are still going, and you still make. A whopping $30-$40 a night going down there and playing.
And a hot dog. Don't forget the hot dog.
And you get a hot dog, but parking's $12. So.
Yeah, parking is $12, and don't forget you have to tip the guy $5 when he comes to wipe your windshield off with the dirty newspaper.
Exactly. And you got to buy the $2 homeless paper when you're down there too. And so by the time you're done, you got a newspaper and a coney dog out of the deal. So life is good.
Yeah. I used to go home owing $3 every night. I figured it's not going to work for me.
I don't think the pays went up down there at all since the 80s when I was down there, so it's hard to tell.
It hasn't. I'm sure it hasn't. And it's a supply and demand factor that the club owners realize that there's thousands and thousands of terrific musicians that live in Nashville and that move to Nashville every day, and that they know that they have the market cornered because Lower Broad is it's just the place that every aspiring musician goes straight to when they move to town. And so they're like, hey, you wanna play on Lower Broadway? come on, I got a spot for you. Here's $20 and a hot dog. And I just got to the point where I decided, I was having to work triples and quads several nights a week, just to pay my bills. And I was like, no, this isn't working for me.
It's just too brutal, man. It always has been too. I don't know how these guys do 4-hour shows, man. I can't even imagine doing that anymore.
I will say this: it gave me a true appreciation for being able to get in the studio and be creative and get paid to go in the studio and create original music.
Yeah, true enough. True that. Those guys, and when I say these things, I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm saying I don't know how they can go out and do 4 hours and make $50 or $60 if they're lucky. I just, man, life is too short, and
I know.
You could be creating your own original music during that time, and
I have seen some of the most amazing talent on Lower Broadway.
Me too.
Talent that should easily be renowned throughout the world, but it's not, because, as you and I both know, the people who are deserving of record deals and worldwide fame aren't always the one who get the record deals and the worldwide fame.
No, that's a fact. In fact, I would venture to say that probably 90% of the people that don't get the deals are the ones that can really play. It's, and I'm not dogging the people that are out there making a living at it now and having records, but there is certainly a disparity among really great players and people that are and I wanted to get this clear, because I've said this several times and never said it quite right. When I'm talking about the new Nashville music that's out, and I make fun of it sometimes, I call it AC/DC with a fiddle and steel. Mm-hmm. It's not that the bands are not capable players, because they are very capable players. I mean, the people that go out with these artists that have hits are A-team players. It's the quality of the music that's being released is what I don't understand. I don't understand how, if I hear one more song about how country I am, or my tractor or my truck, or how cool, I just can't stomach it. As soon as they start singing and I hear that lyric come out, I am so turned off. And I know everybody that I know says the same thing, so I don't understand why they keep releasing these songs. And you just go, okay, we get it, you're country. Okay, you made the statement 4 songs ago how country you are, and that you took your girlfriend to a drive-in on the tractor. Oh, okay, I'm so tired of that crap. If I hear one more, I'm gonna puke. It's like, please just give us something good, something that we can latch into.
Well, I've got a pretty unique perspective when it comes to the industry, simply because I started off while I was still in high school. I was a junior in high school here in Emporia, Virginia. Started off in radio, so immediately I had my FCC license. I was on the air. I'm straight out of high school. I was at WPTM in Roanoke Rapids, which is a media market country station. So I immediately, I'm playing the guitar, I'm singing, I'm writing, I'm actually on the air. I'm working both sides of the fence. So I've got a perspective as an artist, as a writer, as an air personality for radio. I was part owner of a country nightclub back about 8-9 years ago. So I've got a perspective from that side of the fence. I can see it from all angles, and so I know very well the plight of the musician, which is why, if and when the time comes around where I can do something to help my musical brothers and sisters, you better believe I'm going to step up to the plate and I'm going to bat for each and every one of them. Yeah,
that's how I feel too. You know how I am about that. I like to help everybody and anybody that's trying, But boy,
that's right.
When the songs that are being released and the songs that are being pitched are only being pitched because the people involved at the top own the publishing on it. It's no longer about, give me the best song you got. It's what do you got, here, I'm going to give you this because I own this, and you're going to record it, and because I own it, I'm going to make all the money. I get where they're coming from because they're corporate, but there used to be I talk about this almost every interview, Driver, and I'm sure you remember it when people had artist development. There was a way that they would take an artist from point A to point B, and they had an actual plan to get there, and it usually included 3 or 4 albums. They knew by the end of that 4 albums they were going to have an artist that was solid and would produce for 10 or 15 years or longer. Now, man, I mean, it's like if they have one hit, they're happy they got that.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, and I know it brings back the old saying, which I think the term got coined back in the 50s or the 60s, the one-hit wonder. They're all out there, if they can get one hit out of them, they're trying desperately not to tank and not to take a bath on these new artists, because I mean that's what happened. Country music became very successful in the mid 90s, and the labels thought that it was an indestructible force, so they started signing any and everybody they could get their hands on. And what they found out a few years later was, hey man, not everybody can just walk in and record country music. I mean, I could name a dozen artists off the top of my head. I won't, but I could, that were given deals simply because there was a budget there, and we've got a label, you've got some songs, let's go ahead and do a record and see what happens. And sad to say, I think the industry and the individuals at the top of the food chain, they got a little too cocky in the success that we were having. I mean, you got to think back in 1995, early 90s to mid 90s, 1 in 4 stations in the United States were programming country music. That's how strong the industry was for Nashville. And with that being said, and I'll tell you something else, there's a lot of these major market stations that are owned by some of the conglomerates like Cox Media and Cumulus and Clear Channel. I'm sure you're familiar with all of those.
Sure.
Those corporations. They do millions and millions of dollars worth of what they call testing. They put it out there. They call people at home, and if the people are willing to be a part of this audio testing, they play little clips of these songs, and you tell them if you like them, if you don't. And I don't buy it, because if what is being released to radio is representative of what the public is giving the thumbs up, then there's no hope for our industry. We're done. We're washed up.
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things that I think could save the industry is that they would, let's go back to the beginning. They should have gotten all together back in the 90s, man, when they had the big powwow and said, we're not worried about the internet. What's the internet? We sell records. It's not going to affect us. Had they been smart enough to figure out a way back then to at least condition people to want to buy, instead of, it just seems like it feels like everybody's just running crazy. Music's free, you can get it anywhere, and now people have come to expect it for free. Let's take a break. Give me another song we're going to play here. What are we going to play?
Let's go to the title cut. Let's go to cut number 1. It's called "Keep the Faith." I think a lot of people need to hear that right now.
Work hard every day. Sometimes I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, and I need to get away. This old rat race that I'm running, it's gonna get the best of me. But I got my soul, so at least I know what you get is what you see. This world we live in lay my head down and I bow my head to pray. I close my eyes, I see the angels on high, and this is what I hear them say. This world we live in can be so unkind and so unforgiving. I think it's time to take it easy, keep the faith, girl, while you're so unwise. Take it easy, keep the faith, baby, while you're so unwise. Take it easy, keep the faith, girl, while you're so unwise. Take it easy, keep the faith, baby, while you're so unwise.
All right, we're back on the Sideman Show, and that song is called "Keep the Faith" by Keith Driver. So, let me ask you a question, Keith.
All right.
And it's not anything to do with chickens or crossing a fence or anything like that. Honest to God, it's not. I'm not gonna push you on that. I'm afraid to ask you about that, but
I appreciate it.
You are in Virginia now, so
let's save that one for a whole nother interview. How about it?
Transporting chicken over a state line is a crime in some states, but and it was an underage chicken, from what I understand. But another show. Anyway,
a whole nother show.
All right, now, other than Shelton Hank 3, I think you've got a record here. I mean, 3 CD set. He just released 4. He must have tried to one-up you or something. I don't know. So,
well, I mean,
how many songs do they get when they buy it?
A dear friend of mine, Jimmy Johnson, who is one of the most prolific bass players ever.
Yeah, in history.
He is food for my soul. We have a conversation. We try to talk on the phone every couple of 3 weeks. And I met Jimmy backstage at the Opry when he was playing with Vince Gill. But I recognized him, and I was like, you look familiar, but I don't know where I've seen you before. And he starts naming off all these people that he's played for. And when he got to Roy Orbison, I said, that's where I've seen you. I've seen you in all of the Roy Orbison videos, because I was a big Orbison fan and still am. And anyway, Jimmy and we talk every couple of weeks. And okay, ADD's kicking in. What was the question again?
Oh, geez, Driver, come on. I don't remember either.
Oh, ADD's kicking your butt too.
See,
huh?
No, you use the ADD mind trick, the Jedi ADD trick.
There was a look.
You were going to make a point, so I'll just throw it out there. Roy Orbison. We were talking about Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, back it up a little more. What was the question?
Okay,
the original question.
Was there? I don't remember. Anyway.
There was a point to be made.
God, I swear. Get on the phone.
The six pack, the Blake Shelton.
Yes.
Yeah, the six pack. Jimmy called me about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he told me what was going down in Nashville. He said Walmart, the CEO of Walmart had rolled into town and taken a private meeting with all of the label heads, and basically didn't pull any punches. He said straight up, we are responsible for 80%. I don't know if 80% is correct, but I think it's close. 80% of all of the hard disk sales in the United States. And in our way of thinking, we would rather lower the price and lower the content and sell more, as opposed to raising the price and raising the content. And I can follow the logic. I can absolutely follow the logic on that. But it takes, again, it's about building a better mousetrap. It's not necessarily about playing the Jedi mind trick on people. It's about delivering quality in the content. If you give the people a great product, they're going to buy it. That's the long and the short
Bottom
of it.
line,
But anyway,
really. I mean, when
it really is, And so anyway, the CEO, he said, what we want you to do is we want you to reduce the content down to 6 songs, so we can lower the price down to $7 or $8. That way, instead of only selling 1,000 copies at $15 or $16 a piece, we can sell 10,000 copies at $7 or $8 a piece. And again, there's a logic to be followed, but the industry is a victim of its own greed in this respect, because they have gouged and gouged and gouged throughout the what I call the good times back in the 90s, and now that we're in the bad times, their legacy has followed them all the way up to the present, and the quality of the content has continued to drop over the past decade, and the market has narrowed the field. It's basically they're pitching and promoting their music to a very small, narrow field, and a lot of it is teenagers. Young teenagers, and they're trying to groom them and captivate their audience during the adolescent stage, and hoping and praying that it will continue into adulthood. And you can't base a $1 billion industry on a hope and a prayer, and that's just my opinion.
Well, I think the ignorance in that is not on your end, but on their end. The ignorance in that is that there are a group of a demo out there, demographic of people that they would probably buy CDs. They would probably pay for the content. The problem is the industry has abandoned all these people that love the music and really cared. And in exchange, they think they're going to chase these 12-year-olds and 15-year-olds with Taylor Swift. And no offense to Taylor, but I mean, it's just bad thinking. I'm sorry. I mean,
it's a terrible business plan altogether. I mean, the CEOs, the presidents of the labels that are left, they're squirming and they're scrambling. Entire departments are being laid off and fired. What it's going to boil down to eventually is there's going to be a president and a secretary, and that's it. That's going to be the label. And then the label will just dry up and blow away, and we will all walk through the door together into the next era of music. And what that is, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But eventually it's going to happen. It's an inevitability.
Yeah, I see it coming too. I mean, there's, you walk down on the row, on Music Row now, and it's more T-shirt places and things like that than labels and studios like it used to be. I mean, I've had this talk several times, driver, and it's true because you recorded down here too. In the old days, you could walk up and down the row, and if you needed a piece of gear, say you were recording somewhere, and you said, hey, the LA2A ain't working here, you could walk down the street and borrow one. You can't try to do that today.
No, doesn't happen.
It won't happen. There used to be a camaraderie on the row. It was the row. And there you could walk into doors, you could walk in and see label company heads right there and talk to them. Walk in the door and sit in their office and pick their brain.
My first session was at RCA's old Studio B, which was the overdub studio. No, excuse me, Studio C.
Yeah.
Which was the old overdub studio, and there's a lot of history in the RCA studio A, B, and C. My first experience was in C. Years later, I actually did get to record and do a session in B, which, oh man, that was wonderful.
Yeah, that's a thrill.
To stand
That's
and
where
record
Elvis
in
was.
that studio was insane.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But you're so right. You know, the artists, the writers, the little people that make the wheels turn in our industry, they got thrown overboard by the industry 30 years ago.
Yeah, they really did. Thrown out with the bathwater. I mean, the people that really could have made this business function and run, it's almost like watching our government. You know, it really does come from the top down.
It is a mirror image of our government. You hit the nail on the head.
I mean, you watch how,
Yes.
you know, if we spent money the way the labels did like in the 80s and 90s, man, I mean, they were throwing the crap out. I mean,
oh yeah.
thousands and thousands of dollars going up people's nose while they were in the studio recording. And, you know, anybody that tries to pretend that didn't go on down here in the 80s, hello. I mean, there was, you know, every studio went to and did a session, there was like a plate of Coke, and it was, you know, the heady days of Nashville. I mean, there was a lot going on down here, and there was some great music being made, too. You know, I think...
You know it.
The latter part of the 80s is some of my favorite country music ever.
I mean, you know as very well that one of my most dear friends in the world, and I consider him to be probably one of my very best friends, Pig Robbins.
Yeah.
Has been, I say, and he hates it when I say this, but I say it anyway, he is probably the most recorded piano player in the world.
Oh, yeah, gotta be.
And I know for a fact he's got close to 400 number ones under his belt. And so he was a huge part of that process. You know, he was one of what they call the A-team players throughout the 60s, you know, even dating back to the 50s. You know, the very first thing that he remembers hearing himself on the radio was White Lightning with George Jones, which
Right.
was, I believe, in the late 50s. He was a strong player throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the new millennium, and into the second decade of the new millennium. I mean, this guy is a force to be reckoned with, and humble and sweet.
Yep.
And you would never hear him say one thing. You would never hear Pig Robbins say one word that would lend itself to being narcissistic at all.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he is a rare breed, and there aren't a lot of people like him. There were never a lot of people like him before, and there's even less today.
Yeah, it's a whole different field now. I mean, there's all the politics, and you know, and really, there's nobody with any power. It amazes me how these labels still want to play politics when they have no power, zero. But they still want to lay the politic game on you. And it's like, artists out there, if you're listening to me right now, wake up. I left out the expletive I was going to say, but wake up. I mean...
I'll give you an example. Just for a goof, back about 2 or 3 months ago, I decided, and I think it was right after the ACM Awards aired, I decided to create a page on Facebook, and I called it Preserving the Traditional Sound of Country Music. Mm-hmm. You would not believe the response that I have gotten on this page. Number one, if the labels and the radio stations and all of these marketing and research houses, if they think that the people of the United States, if they think that there are no more fans of traditional country left, they are sadly mistaken, first of all.
Yep.
And I've always said that, you know, the Billboard and the trade mags, they need to go ahead and bite the bullet and split the format, because contemporary country and traditional country, they're so opposite. There's no way that that a traditional country artist stands a chance when it comes to making a mark on a contemporary format.
Well,
if they would just go ahead and go ahead.
Imagine Patsy Cline trying to walk in and get a deal now.
Oh, you know, Roy Orbison is another one. You know,
how would they get a
say,
deal now? How would they possibly get signed?
You know, they just wouldn't. They wouldn't, and it would. And the sad part is, it would be based solely on their aesthetics.
Yeah,
the
it
way
would.
they
I'm
looked.
telling you, it would, because it doesn't matter about singing anymore. Obviously,
No.
You know, I mean, some of the vocals that I hear, and I'm not going to name names or any of that crap. So you know, relax, everybody. But I mean, some of these vocals you hear, you just scratch your head and go, how is that possible that they could
That's
sing
right.
that way? You know, and obviously auto-tune has changed the business a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I think it's great to fix little areas. If the performance was good, okay, then fix a spot that may need it. But you know, they're now tuning entire tracks as just a matter of business.
Well, as far as I can tell, the only area within our industry that has not been bastardized to this point, and there's no way that they will be able to bastardize it, is the writing of the hit song.
Yeah, correct. You're very correct.
They can continue to cut their own throats by putting out crap if they want to, and basically what they're doing is they're committing professional suicide. That they can circumvent the system by using auto-tune to take somebody who can't sing and make it sound like they can sing, and they can make them sign contracts that basically makes them sell their souls to the devil in order to have that shot at their 15 minutes of fame and fortune. But they cannot create a computer program that can write a hit song. It still takes a human analog being with a piece of paper and a pen.
That's
and a
right.
brain.
Well, you know, Keith, what it takes to break a single now is $3 million. How ridiculous is that? $3 million bucks to get in the top 10. When you know, it's not even about your talent. It's not about anything else. But you know, if you got somebody that'll put $3 million up, and people do it every day, folks. Believe me. I mean, you know, the charts are still full.
Absolutely.
You know, because at that juncture, it used to be that, you know, if you had that kind of money up there and you were in that range, you were selling records. And it's not translating into that anymore because people want it for free. Thank you, labels, for training people. They don't want to take the heat for it, but really they didn't do anything about it. So they kind of more or less said they condoned it.
That's right.
You know, they're guilty by attrition.
And also, if you get on Google and you Google Dick Clark and payola,
it's sick.
You will learn a history lesson from the 60s that was huge in the news. And I mean, it was a big stink. And basically, I mean, anybody that knows what payola is knows that it was the labels and the management companies paying the radio stations to play the songs, which that seemed to somehow violate an ethics code that was supposed to be unspoken within the industry.
Right.
Well, Jesus, you know, it went down. It went away. They created this moral code of ethics that the industry needed to adhere to, and then all of a sudden, you know, these geniuses come along and they figure out, okay, well, we need to get airplay, so we've got to figure out how we can spread some of this money around and get the airplay that we need in order to secure a certain position on the chart, so the value of our artists will continue to go up. Well, it's payola, simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, it kills me when you hear about these program directors that were taking whores, cars, you know, vacations. You know, it was just a matter of course that you knew if you wanted to get that song played at that reporting station, it was going to cost you a hooker and a car. You know, I mean,
exactly.
Insanity. And, you know, this has been going on, folks, for, you know, 50, 60 years. This is nothing new. But in America, what you listen to on the radio is not there because they're talented. It's there because they had the money to buy that position. And I defy anybody to come on this show and challenge me on that point that's in this business. And I won't get any takers.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, I apologize to you, and I apologize to your listeners if I sound consistently down about the industry. But it's like I said a little while ago, the industry threw the little guys overboard 30 years ago, and it's been up to us to sink or swim all on our own. And I foresee a new era just around the corner. It might be a year, tops 2 years away from coming into existence, where there's going to be a new middle class musician that's going to rise up and take control. The days of being super rich or super dirt poor is over with. There's just too many options and too many avenues for people to promote themselves through social media on the internet, and people are grabbing it and they're running with it, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I do too, because I think, well, you know as well as I do, Driver, usually an artist doesn't make any money until about the third record. But see,
that's right.
Most people don't get to a third record anymore. They don't. The labels don't play that game anymore, where they'd give you a 3-record deal and build your career over time. Now it's like, throw it out there, and if it sticks, okay, we might let you do another single. And if that sticks, then we'll put out a CD. I mean, it's so backwards from what it used to be that it's a wonder anybody makes any money at it, because there's people, and them as well as I do, that have been in this business for years that are not making money, and they're kind of in a shock that the business has changed to where it is, where they're not making money.
I know.
They don't know what to do.
When I was in my late teens and my early 20s, and I made my first few trips to Nashville, and I was hungry. I wanted it more than anybody. And it's funny because what's the Garth Brooks song, Unanswered Prayers?
Yeah.
I mean, how true is it, for somebody to go through a decade and a half of their life chopping on a tree, and the thing just refuses to fall, and then you see these other people around you, they're chopping on their tree, and they get the tree to fall, and the damn thing falls right on top of them.
Yep.
I'm pretty thankful my tree didn't fall.
Well, on that level, though, as well as I do, half these labels, or more than half these labels in town, are sitting on archives that they recorded and aren't doing a thing with it. And I'll give you a good example: Curb Records. Several,
man.
Ronnie McDowell's son, Tyler Dean McDowell, is on that label. He's been on it since he was 11, waiting for his record to come out. He's like 22 now. He's a good example. Hal Ketchum did a beautiful album called Father Time, which is probably his greatest work ever. I mean, they cut it live in 2 days, and they're shelving it. They're holding on to it. It's like, why are you holding back from the public who want to buy this product? Why are you not promoting it makes no sense to me.
I've never really understood that. And you mentioned Curb Records. I've got some friends of mine from here in Virginia, as a matter of fact. They're from Rocky Mount, Virginia, and you may remember them from back in the late 90s, early 2000s. They were the Clark brothers.
Yeah.
And they were on Curb, and Tim McGraw, I believe, produced their record. And they had tons of great stuff lined up. They had a TV show pilot out in Los Angeles, and they had some great music. And I met them and got to be dear friends with them from back in the Jim and Jesse days, because they were bluegrass musicians. Their dad is Freddie Clark. He's a bluegrass singer, player, and he's also a minister. And he would go around and do the bluegrass festival circuit. And I got to be friends with these guys, terrific bunch of guys. And just like you said, their album was shelved, and this is the part that bothered me. It's not so bad that it was shelved, but it was shelved until they were forced into bankruptcy, and then and only then was it released.
That's right.
So the label could recoup its investment, and I think that's just dirty business.
I do. Well, I have to agree. Now, I offered, in fairness, everybody out there listening, I offered to have Mike Curb come on the show, because I would like to ask Mike Curb why they do this. I'd like to ask Mike Curb several questions. I can't get a return call. I can't get an email return. Nobody's talking to me. I also emailed Sony and basically got a response of I'm not giving any more interviews now, and this kind of
Right.
it's a weird time in the business, man. But I think they got away with it so long, and I'm not accusing, my friend at Sony, because he just got thrown into the job just recently.
Oh yeah.
He's trying his best to make heads or tail of his new job. And I don't think I don't want to name any names, but, I got from him that he was a little afraid to talk about it because, he didn't want to lose his job.
I can only imagine, like I say, it's almost like being in the mafia. And when I say that, I have to kind of laugh because of the statement that you and I both made a little while ago. The industry is a mirror image of our government.
Yeah.
And that scares the hell out of me.
Oh, we got some crooked people in our government, man. Our government's got to get cleaned out too. It starts at the top.
Yeah, that's another show. That's another show.
I know. Don't get me. You know how I am, man. I get started on that. I'm just irritated as hell anyway at some of the things I've been reading today. And the music business could be such a good business if people would stop thinking that there's not enough to go around. There's not, they get this greed thing going on, like, hey, I've got to corner this market. And man, that's the problem. That's been the problem from day one. Continues to be the problem, is that, there's enough for everybody. And I love your idea about, a middle-class artist rising up, because that's going to happen. And when it does...
it's absolutely going to happen.
Yeah, when it does, man, it's going to be great because people are going to see firsthand that it can be done. I remember...
Well, it's already started.
Yeah, it is. It's already rolling. Do you remember when Ricky Van Shelton did Nashville Now years ago? And
I do.
He got in trouble because, he didn't go along with the company line of, he looked at Ralph and Ralph said, well, boy, how's your life changed or something, because all the money. He goes, I haven't made any money. Ricky was just so honest. And so out there, he didn't play the game, and he was dropped immediately after that.
I know. Ricky's another one of my Virginia boys. Virginia is a hotbed. A hotbed for country talent.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, there's some of the Jimmy Fortune was over here at my house the other day and sang, and I posted that on Facebook. And Jimmy's Virginia boy too, man. Talk about a singer.
Absolutely.
Oh my God! I mean, he did Elizabeth here with just him and the acoustic guitar. David Frizzell was sitting next to him, and our bellies were full of pork because I'd cooked on the grill. It was great. We would just sit around and hum.
That's awesome.
I love to hear that kind of vocal, and Virginia guys seem to have it, man. They know how to do that harmony. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just get really wound up over some of this stuff, man. But these labels, there's an open invite.
I get wound up about it too.
Open invite to any of the labels that want to come on and give us your side of the story. Tell us, why you guys shelve projects. What's the purpose behind having an artist pour their heart and soul into a record, promise them you're going to put it out, and not do it? It doesn't make any sense, especially if they have a buying public for it.
Well, I tell you, there's a good friend of mine, and we've discussed this in the past, and I would really love it if you'd have him on your show, because I think he would give a nice, unique perspective from both sides of the fence, because he is on both sides of the fence from the aspect of producer and songwriter, and that's Carl Jackson, who is one of the Nashville's primo songwriters.
I have Carl scheduled, and I've got to get his info from you to get him on. Carl worked with my mentor, Chet Atkins.
Absolutely.
And, Chet taught me the business, man. And then Steve Miller took it to another level. And, of course, Hal Ketchum and Kev Moe have all been good mentors for me, too. And, man, now Kev Moe's an amazing guy. He just did his album by himself. Did the whole record by himself, asked his friends to come and sing on it. Vince Gill's on it. It's his best album ever. And, it was amazing how I could see the satisfaction in his eyes that, hey, finally I got to do the record I want to do.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
And, I can hear that on yours, too. I can hear it in your singing on your record.
I cut the vocals. I had the music tracked by a good friend of mine in Nashville. His name is Brent Rader, and he is one of the most exquisite musicians I've ever met in my life. He plays piano for Jody Messina on the road. Incredible writer, incredible singer, and terrific producer. He produced the music, and I cut the vocals right here in my living room in Emporia, Virginia. And nobody, if I didn't tell you that, nobody would ever know that.
Yeah. Well,
and it just goes to show you, and that's another facet of technology that has evolved to the point where you don't have to have RCA Studio B or worse yet, Studio A, which was a big warehouse, essentially. You don't have to have big tracking rooms anymore. The plugins and the applications that go along with technology now, they make those sounds available to you just at the press of a button.
Yeah, it really is a kind of a death knell for studios, unfortunately. But on the other hand, it's never been easier to make an album at home. Now, I say that with a caveat because I think there's also an overwhelming amount of junk out there that I've heard. And I'm sorry, people, but I bet you I get 4 or 5 packs a week of just stuff clear full of CDs. Here, listen to my stuff, which is cool. Because I listen to everything. I love everything. But some of it is just like, okay, now you really could have used a producer on this, and then you tell them that, well, I can't afford one. Well, you can't really afford not to have somebody who's objective about your music too. And there's fine lines with everything, but I think you're right. Technology. I mean, that microphone you sang on, for instance, the Mojave. That thing is one of the greatest. I use one in here. I'm doing the show on one right now, and you are too. And
I am, and it's the Mojave MA200. As far as I'm concerned, I can't tell you how many compliments I have had on the quality of this microphone.
Well, it's really down here in Nashville. It's becoming a favorite. I pop them in. I did a record with David Frizzell a few weeks ago, and we had a Neumann and some other mics in there. And they wanted to try those, and they put those up. And I threw up, I've got a 201 FET that I use because I really like the bottom end on it. I put that in there, man, and the engineer pushed the button and said, keep that, leave that one up. It was like, these microphones are kicking the ass of these $4,000 and $5,000 microphones, and they're $1,000 or less,
I know it.
And they're just incredible microphones, and, we're not trying to do a plug for them, but I mean, you're talking about technology. It's becoming cheaper, and they're making microphones that are better than a lot of the $4,000 or $5,000 microphones that you'd have to spend the money on in the past to get a decent vocal. So
I've had clients come into the studio that have been in some really nice studios up in the Richmond area and over in the Norfolk and probably down in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and they straight out said, this microphone, this Mojave MA200, sounds better than the high dollar Neumanns that they were singing on in the big studios.
Yeah,
which I took that as a huge compliment.
When I took the mics over to Chuck Ainley, even he said, man, these are incredible mics. I mean, until you get up in the $10,000 and $12,000 range, these are really hard to beat. And and even for those microphones, number one, nobody can really afford them. Even studios can't afford those. Very few producers have them. And, the amount of difference was pretty negligible. These mics are as good as it gets. But, and Pro Tools has dropped. The price is now $249 to get into Pro Tools. I mean, come on, people. There's not a better way to do it. And a lot of people argue with me on this, and I know you agree with me because we've talked about it, but there has never been a better time in the history of music, recorded music or otherwise, to be a musician on your own, because you no longer have the labels shelving you, making promises they'll never keep. It comes down to personal responsibility, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I totally agree. If I was 19 years old or in my early 20s and in this day and age and know what I know, I'd be unstoppable. I think there's a lot of us that would.
Well, that's the other thing that's got to change, and I hope it does. For a long time now here in America, everything's been about, the young, the young, the young. Well, listen, I got news for you, America. The rest of the world doesn't see it the way you do. You go to Europe, they don't care how old you are. I saw Gene Watson turn a crowd into putty. in Ireland. Gene Watson, who I believe he's 70 now or close to it, and got up there and slayed this crowd of 10,000 people in Ireland, and there was kids 12 years old singing Gene Watson tunes. I mean,
I love that. It does my heart so good to hear that.
America doesn't get it, Keith. I mean, they don't get it. They think, if you're not 12 with a tit job, you're not worthy, and that's only because they've been force-fed a steady diet of this crap, and then the media is telling them, oh, you have to be young, to compete, and it's just not true.
Yeah.
We got to change that.
Well, at the risk of going in a political direction, which I really don't want to do.
Come on,
this
driver,
country,
go. Let's go there.
No. That's
in.
another show. That's another show.
Come on.
But the United States, in my opinion, and I see it on a daily basis, the public is brainwashed into doing and saying what they're told to do and say, and it's all coming from several different sources of media now. It's not just television. It's the internet, it's television, it's radio, it's anything, satellite, anything that they hear, and if it's portrayed as being hip or cool in the media, then they naturally assume it's the truth. And I challenge anybody who's listening tonight to don't roll over on command. Don't accept what you hear and what you see as being automatically the truth. Get out there and research it. Make sure it's the truth before you jump up and get on a bandwagon.
Yep.
Because 90% of what people sell is bullshit.
It really is, man. You hit the nail on the head, my brother. It's crazy that people just buy it.
Yeah, people buy it, and then they eat it up and they smile, and it's it's like the United States is just this one big transcontinental mall of America, and we're all slaves to it, and I hate it. Well, it translates into the music industry as well. It all
comes from the top,
relative.
Brother. It all filters down. The thing that I get a lot of heat for, because, all the time on Facebook, and I'm sure everybody out there is on Facebook, so you'll know what I'm talking about. You get these people that'll send you a Democratic thing or a Republican talking point, and it's always, this evil bastard did this or that, this president needs to go. And clear back to, Reagan time. I mean, they've been doing this forever, or even way before that. I mean, probably as far back as Lincoln, they were doing the smear stuff. And I try to tell people when they hand me these things on Facebook, it's like, look, you're in a one-party system. America is convinced they're in a two-party system, and there's really only one party. Because if you take it to the top, the DNC and the RNC, they're owned by the same people. They're run by the same corporations that force feed you frozen poison that you put in your freezer and thawed in a microwave. Oh, real good for you. Free radical. I mean, and as soon as I say that, what happens is they're trained also to go, oh, fruitcake. This guy's nuts. Because we've been told by these major corporations that this food is safe. That, taking these pills here, it's safe. It's good for you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
People, do your research, because once you research it, it'll scare the hell out of you. It should.
I know
what's out there. But anyway.
I have to be extremely careful what I say, because I'm very passionate and very vocal when it comes to these kinds of things. And I've gotten in trouble a time or two on Facebook. And Facebook in and of itself is a great concept, and if it's used properly, can be a very constructive piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you get a lot of people out there. Everybody's got their own opinion, and I respect that. But sometimes, wrong is just wrong, and you got to call somebody out when they're just absolutely wrong. And unfortunately, when you're in a position that politics exists in, and which is most every industry anymore.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
You have to be, you just got to be really careful what you say. And I've gotten in trouble a time or two. I've never backed down off of anything that I stood on, and I'm proud of that, because I don't play games. If it's something, if it's something that's wrong, I'm going to call it wrong. And if you got a problem with it, There's a delete button right there on the computer. Feel free to use it anytime. And there's other times where you just kind of sit back and scratch your head a little bit and just let crazy be crazy.
Yeah, that it's what I'm finding though is I agree with you. I think Facebook's kind of fascinating experiment because you can post something, and I've done this. I've posted stuff just to see what people will say. And it's amazing some of the stuff that comes out of, how people take what you're putting up in a whole different direction than you even had intended when you put it up.
Yeah.
And it's funny how, we've become a society where we text each other or what the hell, man? The phone was invented so you could talk to somebody.
That's
and
right.
instead, we end up texting, and a lot of people text to death. They drive and text. And
that's insane.
And then, God, we're raising a generation of people that won't know how to communicate with each other.
You're exactly right.
And I think that's what they, or whoever they is, really want. They are the Illuminati, the rich, the elite that run these corporations. They don't want us talking because I think if America ever woke up and really got smart, really woke up, I think you'd see the Fed disappear in a heartbeat, which it should.
Yeah.
We'd see the government get cleaned up. These clowns that are taking lobby money from oil companies and drug companies, they gone. Term limits would be set, and we'd actually take our country back over, which it's been hijacked from us. People don't want to believe it.
That's right. They don't. It's not in their best interest. They don't want a country of well-educated citizens who are capable of critical thinking.
Yeah, because if there was critical thinking, how did like $50 billion that we were told the Iraqi war was going to cost is now $5 trillion?
Yeah.
Boy, I mean, was math part of the job when you took it, Congress? Anybody, raise your hand, give me an answer to that. It amazes me.
And it's so scary to me, as we swore we wouldn't let this go political, and we did anyway. But it's so scary to talk about this, and we could interchange the verbiage for our country to the music industry, and it would be applicable in both instances. And that's what scares me in a lot of the cases, because we're talking about
well, it's the same corporations, Keith, that own that at the end of the day
it really is
own all these labels. The major labels at some point are under somebody's holding company, and they're answering. When you think you've seen rich, they're the real wealthy. You are never going to see or hear about. They are behind the scenes, man, behind the scenes that are actually pulling the strings on everybody else,
Yeah.
It's a freaky deal, and it is kind of big and scary, but you know what? I really believe that when you walk up to a monster in your dream and you hit them with a pin and they pop and all the air goes out of it, you see they're just weak-ass little people. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we're going to discover if we all get together and say, okay, we've had enough. And it's the same with the music business. I mean, for years now, people have been so intimidated by labels. They go in there and and these labels would have the legs chopped off the chairs, so you'd have to sit below them. They used every psychological weapon known to man, including promising you everything under the sun, and then bringing out Johnny Lip Pliers, their attorney, to hook the vice grips to your lips and go, "You're not getting this, and you're not getting that," and keep twisting. And now all of a sudden it's like they have no power. They're powerless. They've got nothing. Walmart's the biggest label in the world.
That's right.
These labels have nothing. The distribution networks are falling apart every day. What was it last month? Do you remember what Sony moved, 48,000 units 1 week? How do you keep How do you keep a company
I couldn't
that
tell
big?
You. Couldn't tell you.
I mean, you can't survive on that kind of numbers. I mean,
no. And it's like you said, if the little people in the industry, which would be comparable to the citizens of America, could band together, could grow a brain quick enough and band together and speak with one mighty voice, amazing things could happen. I call it the baby elephant syndrome, which is, we are still extremely in our infancy right now, mentally speaking.
Yeah.
I call it the baby elephant syndrome, and I found it on the internet. Here, I'll give you a little excerpt of it. And this is basically how I view people within the music industry and citizens of America at the same time. It goes like this: an adult elephant can easily uproot huge trees with its trunk. It can knock down a house without much trouble. When an elephant living in captivity is still a baby, it's tied to a tree with a strong rope or a chain every night. And because of the nature of the elephant is to roam free, the baby elephant instinctively tries with all of its might to break the rope, but it isn't strong enough to do it. Now, realizing its efforts are of no use, it finally gives up and stops struggling. Now, after the baby elephant tries and fails many times, it'll never try again for the rest of its life. Later, when the elephant is fully grown, it can be tied to the same small tree with a thin rope. It could easily free itself by uprooting the tree or breaking the rope, but because its mind has been conditioned by its prior experiences, it doesn't make the slightest effort to break free.
Wow.
The powerfully gigantic elephant has limited its present abilities based on the limitations of the past. And that's what I call the baby elephant syndrome.
Boy, and it is prevalent in our society.
It is.
Big time.
Now, human beings are exactly the same. They're exactly like the elephant, except for one thing. We can choose not to accept the false boundaries and limitations of our past.
That's it.
And that's what separates us from everything else in the world.
Okay, I'm starting it right now. Keith Driver for president. On your write-in, don't waste your votes on Obama or whoever, what other corporate shell they put in there. I'm telling you, writing Keith Driver. I'm going to do it. I'm writing Keith Driver.
Wouldn't that be just wonderful? Keith Driver in the White House.
Can I sleep in the Lincoln bedroom if you get it? Can I? I've heard it's haunted.
Well, I don't know if you remember this or if you ever even heard the I guess it was a rumor, or for lack of a better term, an old wives' tale. But Elvis Presley, when he was alive, he told Nixon that he wanted a federal DEA badge.
Right, I remember that.
And Nixon said, I can do a lot of things, but that's something that I can't do. That's a separate branch of the government. I don't have any control over that. And Elvis's response was, either you get me that badge, you get me and all of my guys in my camp a badge, or I'm going to run against you for president in the next term. And do you know, Nixon had every single one of those guys a badge the following week.
Go
now,
Elvis.
Talk about politics.
Yeah, I love that, man. Well, he had the power of the people.
That's it.
There
there is no power
No.
greater than the power of the people.
That's right. When we're all united, it reminds me of the movie Bug's Life. Like when the grasshoppers finally land and the ants go, "Hey, you know what? Up your ass. We're gonna, this is our food." And it's kind of, whoever made that movie, God bless you, because I think it's a great way to look at the situation, and it's everywhere, man. Keith, you know as well as I do, people come to Nashville with this idea in their head that, hey, if I get down there, I'm going to make it, get a record deal, I'm going to be rich and famous, and they used to walk into my office over on Music Row, and I'd feel so bad for them because they would put their life savings up, they would sell their homes, they would, they had this thing in their head where they just knew if somebody just heard them, that they would get a deal, and man,
yeah. And it is sad because there are people out there, there's a very small percentage of people who could come to town and command a record deal. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I heard a story one time that Gary Allen, when he left Texas coming to Nashville, it was just a matter of him walking into town and choosing which label he wanted to be on because he had that much momentum behind him coming from Texas. And you know as well as I do, the Texas music scene is very strong.
It's the biggest in the world, really. I mean, it's like a whole country there unto itself.
There's other people, 90% of the crop, and there's people that come move to Nashville every day. Thousands of people move to Nashville, Tennessee every day with hopes and dreams of making it in some way, shape, or form in the industry. A lot of them want to be artists. Some of them want to be writers. Some of them want to be session players. Some of them want to get a job as a sideman. And hopefully one day, if they do, they'll come be on your show.
Well, that's why I can't really tour anymore. I just have no desire to tour anymore. And
I know.
This show kind of came out of that, because it was kind of, okay, let me see, 30 plus years of touring, sitting in a bus or in an airplane, traveled all over the world. Now what? Ain't gonna go to work at Walmart? I don't even think I'd know what to do at Walmart. Hi, I'm Bear. I scare people. I'm 6'5", 330 pounds, and I look like a Sasquatch. Who's going to give me a job, really? I wanted to be a jockey. It didn't work out. But, I mean, you know what I'm saying, brother? I mean, I love the music business, and because I love the music business and I love people, I'm doing this show because I want to help people understand clearly that this is a business. Steve Miller had that talk with me when I first met Steve 20 years ago. He said, listen, he goes, they call it music business for a reason. Because, I was one of those guys that was saying to him, man, I don't want to get all hung up in, publishing on. I want to play music. I just want to play my music, go out and play guitar and play in front of people and hang out. And he really taught me that, you know what, if you are not in control of your business, because, see, I wanted him to manage us. And I was begging him to manage us. I was in the world's only wrestling band. We were in the WCW. It was called Living Insanity. And I wanted Steve to manage us so bad. And he said, if you can't manage yourself, you need to take 2 weeks off and quit.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be able to manage yourself. And if you can't manage your own business, then you shouldn't be in business. And it's just a harsh reality that so many of these people that come to me, with even, I've had people drag their kids in my office and say, here, sing for him, sing for him, sing for him, and it's like, hey, don't torture this kid. The poor kid's in tears. And I always invariably tell them, look, there's people on Music Row that'll come into the office and stand on their head naked and do push-ups and sing at the same time. And if you're not willing to compete with that level, then you really should look at yourself and say, this may be a hobby for me and not something I want to be in the business of, because it's a brutal
Absolutely, because
business.
I'm going to tell you, this is a cutthroat, evil, thankless business. And hopefully, and I pray that will all change and turn around. But I want to recant something I said a few minutes ago when I said there is no greater power than the power of the people. And that's absolutely true. But there is an equally great power, and that's the power of knowledge. If people will arm themselves with the knowledge that they need to be successful, it really eliminates a lot of the variables in the equation.
It really does, man. I mean, if people can just grasp the basics of the business and say to themselves, okay, I'm going to force myself today to sit and read the entire BMI document or ASCAP document. I'm going to learn how to clear my songs. I'm going to understand my publishing. You know how many people come to me and say, here, can you fill out the publishing papers for me?
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, man, guys, this is an opportunity for you to read through and understand what you're, most people don't realize that back in the day, and it still goes on, I don't care what anybody says, you'd walk into a label, and this is true, driver, and the first thing they'd ask, well, who do you have your publishing with? And 9 out of 10 of the people didn't have any, and they'd say, well, I really don't have a publishing company that I work with. And then the next question out of their mouth is, oh, do you have a writer agreement with BMI or ASCAP or anybody? Well, no, I've never really thought about that. We'll do it for you. We'll take care of that. And damn well, and I haven't got one label to call me back on that question either. They just tuck it neatly into their catalog and it becomes their property, because the law states that whoever owns the publishing owns the copyright. I don't give a shit if you wrote it or not. And, people don't want to hear that. But it's like, take care of your business first. If you'll just take care of your business, understand that, then you have at least a point of leverage when you're in trying to get a deal. If I think the deals are done. I think that day is long gone. But you have to own your publishing, Because that's how you're going to make your money. That's how you get your mechanical royalties, and that's how you get all these other things that come about is from the publishing. And I can't preach it enough. And I'm proud to say I've never taken anybody's publishing. I've always taken the high road and said, hey, you know what? Here, let me show you how $150 can make you a millionaire if you have a hit. Because
Exactly.
you spend that $150, you set up your publishing company, that's for life. You own it. You're protected. Anyway, I ramble, but I mean, you know how I feel about that. I mean, people get educated.
I mean, that's what I'm talking. When I say knowledge is power, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
But how many people have you met, driver, that walk up to you and go, I don't have publishing, you know, I don't need that. My friend will publish it for me. I've heard that one too.
Yeah.
I got a friend that'll put it under his publishing, and it's like, why would you, you know, well, here, let me open my wallet. Here's all my money. I'm going to give it to you. You know, I mean, it's basically the same thing. And anybody that would tell you they were going to I'll just run it under this, you know, no, that's not cool.
I'm pretty sure there are some exceptions to the rule. There are circumstances that exist that would probably make it so it was okay for somebody to say, hey, you know what, I got a buddy of mine, I really trust him, we've been in this together from the very beginning, I'm going to let him publish the songs, and you know, we're going to do this together. You know, in certain instances it's okay, but there are very few people, sad to say, there are very few people in the music business that you can truly trust.
Yeah. And you know what? I agree with you. There are times and there are deals that need to be made, but you want to have it initially set up so that you can make the deal. You know, I mean, what happens is invariably these people would hand it over to the label, and the label would say, hey, well, you know, Johnny Lipplier is our attorney here in the back. He's going to have you sign this form, and all it is a BMI publishing form. And, you know, you're clearing a song, and, you know, well, we'll handle it from here on out. Give us power of attorney, and we'll handle all that for you. And we'll sign all these clearance forms. Well, they're clearing it right into their publishing. And, you know, Van Halen went through it. I mean, you go down the list of casualties. I mean, in rock and roll and country, every genre. And it's unbelievable. I mean, John Fogerty couldn't even sing his own songs for a while. Do you remember that?
I know. Oh, I hated that. That made me really mad for him.
Yeah, well, you know why we can't sing Happy Birthday in restaurants and stuff anymore?
Why is that?
Because Warner owns it. Warner bought the rights to Happy Birthday, and if the
Is that right?
if the restaurant or venue has not paid a license fee to them, then you cannot legally sing Happy Birthday in a restaurant. The staff can't.
You know, that's just ridiculous.
That's what I'm talking about, man. It's insanity.
It's ridiculous. I think you and I should prove a point right here, right now. I think we should sing. We should find out whose birthday it is today. It's got to be somebody's birthday, and we should sing Happy Birthday to them right here, right now.
You know what? I'm game. Anywhere in the world, if it's your birthday here, let's do it, driver.
Yeah, if it's your birthday today, get ready because we're getting ready to sing Happy Birthday.
Give me a key, driver. Hit a note.
All right, let's see. I'm plugging a string here.
I can't believe we're doing this.
Here's your E. That's the George Harrison.
Okay.
That's the George Harrison E, by the way.
You ready? All right,
Here we
this
go.
is going out to the world.
You sing
if it's
lead,
your
I'm
birthday.
singing.
Here it is. Happy
All right, you sing the melody.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, you hit the melody. I'm going to grab the harmony.
All right. Happy birthday to you.
To you.
Happy birthday to you. You're way behind. Happy birthday,
Happy
whoever the hell
birthday.
you are. Happy birthday to you. We're going right to Warner hell for that one. Satan's down there stoking the fire in the basement at Warner going, I'm going to get those bastards.
Hey,
Anyway.
you know, I think we changed it up just enough where we could probably create a new copyright and a new publishing office.
I'm feeling you, buddy. I'm feeling it.
Hey, if Mutt Lang can do it, we can do it too.
Oh, yeah. Don't open that can of worms. You had to go there, didn't you? God, you know how to twist me. I'm telling you. Damn you, driver.
Well, look, not to change the subject, but I'm curious to know, there was one other song off of the new CD that I wanted to give you a sneak peek on. Were we going to be able to do that?
Hey, it's my show. We're already way
Handful.
over anyway, so you know what? It's going to be a long show, folks. Enjoy it. So, yeah, man, what is it?
Well, I wanted to end on a more traditional note because that's where my heart is in the traditional country music. And we were talking about my friend Carl Jackson a little while ago.
Yeah.
He wrote a song with Vince Gill several years ago called No Future in the Past. It was a big #1 hit for Vince Gill. And when I heard that song, something clicked inside my brain, and I said, I need to write sort of a call and answer to that song. And so the one that I wrote, and it's on the traditional disc of the new trilogy set, it's called Hard Lesson Learned, and ironically titled. Hard Lesson Learned. Mike Johnson's playing steel on it. Most amazing steel player
I just
ever.
did a session with Mike. I love him.
Isn't he great?
You know what? The guy, it was amazing to watch him work. Mike, if you're listening, we are sincere in our worship of you, because I saw him lay down, give him like 2 or 3 different takes on, and they were all killer, and they were all different.
I know it. And Pig Robbins is on this track.
Cool.
Gosh, Brent Rader, of course, and I was just humbled at the quality of this track. I mean, I've gotten compliments across the board. Bobby Braddock asked me, he said, "Did Vince Gill record that?" He said, "If he didn't, he should have." I was like, okay, that stands alone as the best compliment I've ever had in my life.
Now, did you have cowbell on it?
No cowbell, not on this one.
Damn it, driver.
We'll
I
have
told you, cowbell,
a pop
man.
alternate take. We'll probably do an alternate mix for the pop radio. We'll put plenty of cowbell on that.
You know me, I like a lot of cowbell, but, and you didn't have me on it either, but I wasn't going to say anything. I mean...
You're going to be on the next one. You're going to be on the next one.
Sure, driver. Here's the thing. We're out of time, buddy. I'd love to keep going, but we can't.
Well, Bear, I appreciate you having me on the show, man. I can't even begin to tell you what a great time I've had talking to you tonight. I hope we can do this again extremely soon, because I've got some hot things cooking over here in Virginia. I want to send a quick shout-out to some friends. I got my buddy Vince LeGros out on the West Coast. Alternate Reality Productions is his company, a great film editor. Tom Yankton out of Nashville, one of the best session musicians ever.
Yep.
Pig Robbins needs no introduction. My buddy Al Roberts here in Emporia, great sound man. He's got an Eagle tour bus that we go and gallivant around on. Carl Jackson, Jimmy Johnson. Very special shout out to my buddy and producer Brent Rader and his lovely wife Shauna Larkin Rader of the Larkins. Dominic Miranda, who is on Lake Gaston in North Carolina. He's going to be my web designer. Janet Smith out of Nashville, Tennessee. Terrific graphic arts lady. You can't get any better.
Anybody else?
It just doesn't get any better than her. Super guy up in New York, Poughkeepsie, New York. My buddy Fred Wirtz, one of my co-writers from back in the day. And another good friend out in Columbus, Ohio, Doug Seven, who played on the record. Terrific guitar player. Again, Bear, thank you so much for having me. Love you. Mean it. That's not the booze talking. I'll see you soon.
I love you too, driver. Thanks for being on the show, man. Let's take it out with another tune. What do you say? Thanks for watching The Sideman. Thanks, Keith, for being on. And here's some more Keith Driver music for you. Have a good one. We'll see you on the next show.